How's it going? Chef here with Iron Anchor Cycles, and we are back on the Project Dyna here. While we're waiting for our top end components to come in, I decided we'd move over to the left side of the bike and start to dig into the primary a little bit. As I mentioned in a previous video, we've got an upgraded clutch to go into this bike to be able to handle the additional horsepower and torque that we're going to be putting down once the motor's done. So this video is going to be the install of that kit. So what we've got to install is a couple of pieces, both from Barnett. Really great clutch components, everything from minor upgrades all the way up to full lockup clutches. So check them out if you're looking for any type of clutch upgrade. But what we're doing on this bike is two things. One is their extra plate clutch kit, and the other is an upgraded heavy duty spring. So between both of these components, we should be able to get the power that we need out of that clutch to hold with the additional power from the motor. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we'll just go through this. So first thing we need to do, obviously, is get some of these pieces out of the way in order to get our primary cover off. So I'm going to start by taking off the left side foot peg here, and then also the shifter arm. All right, and then usually a good idea, just so you get everything back the way it was, make a little mark on the shifter arm and the rod so that you can get it back in the same place. You can always just take this off with a little bit of brake clean when we're done. All right, so then from here, got these controls out of the way. We're going to go ahead and break loose all of the bolts holding the primary cover on. We'll get them removed and we'll take it off. One thing to note, the primary oil has already been drained. So if you haven't done that, this is the time when you want to crack that bolt open, drain the oil out of the primary. But like I said, we've already done that, so we'll keep going. All right, so with those all loosened up now, we'll just go ahead and use an electric tool to get them off the rest of the way. All right, so we've got those broken off and all arranged. And so now just slide the primary cover off. All right, so you are going to get some oil that comes out of here. I'm just going to put this piece out of the way. So we've got some rags here to just pick up what's draining out of here, what's left over from when we drain the primary. All right, so get this cleaned up a little bit and we'll continue on. All right, so from here, we've cleaned up a little bit. You're still gonna have a little bit of oil dripping out, but that's all right. What we're gonna do now is take the pressure off of the initial diaphragm spring. So what we've got here is 6 bolts, need a 10mm wrench to take those out. And what we're gonna do is sort of the same way you'd install them in a star pattern, we're gonna loosen them a little bit at a time. We don't want everything kind of getting bent and twisted, probably a little more important on the way in than the way out. But we don't want this all kind of flying out in our faces, so we'll just loosen them a little bit at a time. All right. So once you got the pressure off of the spring here, all of these will turn by hand, and that's how you know that everything is free and clear. You can pull these out the rest of the way. All right, so from this point, you got a couple of pieces to remove. First is our retaining plate, and this will be reusing along with the bolts. Next is the OE spring. This we won't be reusing, so we'll set that aside. Then next comes your pressure plate, as well as right behind it, all of the original friction and steel plates. So this sometimes comes out all kind of sandwiched together because of the oil. Other times it sort of comes out separately. So just be careful and realize that you might get a lot more coming out with it than you think you're going to get. In our case, looks like we're kind of get it all in one shot. All right, so we will separate here the pressure plate, which we'll be reusing. And then we've got all of our original friction and steel plates. So put these aside. These obviously won't be going back in. All right. So the next thing is, and this is a key point for the extra plate kit, in the back here, you've got an additional spacer, a convex, and a flat ring. Those need to come out, and they won't go back in to create the additional space. So grab a pick so we can kind of get those out and be right back. All right, so grab the tool, and actually it turned out that all the plates did not come out together. We had one more friction plate that was still left inside the hub. So pulled that out, and now we'll go ahead and grab out the additional two pieces. All right, there's your first one, the convex ring, and then there is a flat one sitting in here behind it. It's just a little hard to get out just because of the oil. It's kind of got it glued in place. There we go. Just got to get the tool in behind it. Break that seal, and then it'll come right out. There we go. All right. So there's that flat ring. So like I said, both of these two pieces, again, are not going to go back in. There's no replacement for them. The clutch just slides in. So we'll take a look at what we've got here. Just wipe my hands off a little bit. All right, so inside our package from Barnett, okay. We've got our new steels and our new friction plates. So, like I said, there's an extra steel plate and an extra friction plate in this kit. And the assembly is the same, you've just got an extra set. So just like in every other scenario, or most I should say, you're going to start with a friction and you're going to end with a friction, and you're going to put the steel plates in between. So, at the moment, we'll take the steel plates and just put them aside. For the friction rings, Barnett recommends that you soak these in whatever oil you're going to be running in the primary for 3 to 5 minutes before you install them. Really not a bad idea before you get started. You can just throw them into the oil. In my case, I wanted to do this in order for the video, so we're going to go ahead and put some oil in a pan, and we'll soak these, and we'll come right back. All right, so we've had our friction plates here sitting in the oil, soaking for about 5 minutes. We took that time to also just go ahead and wipe down all of the steel plates just to make sure there was nothing on them. So at this point, we're ready to start installing this. So pretty simple. Like I said, we're going to start with a friction plate, do a steel plate, and we're going to alternate until we get to the end. So here we go. So this will be a little bit messy, right, since everything we're putting on here is covered in oil. So we've just got the pan that the friction plates are sitting in, just sitting here below the clutch to catch the oil that's coming off. And also, just to point out, this oil is what we're going to be running in the primary, not just the type, but we're actually just going to take this fresh oil and we're going to put it into the primary when we're done, just so we don't waste anything. All right, so here's our last one. And we're in. So, from here, essentially, this is just going to be the reverse of the removal. So we'll go ahead and after I get my hands cleaned up a little bit here, we'll go ahead and put the pressure plate back in along with the upgraded spring, and then we'll get the retainer tightened down. All right, so we've got our pressure plate. It's a good idea just to check this out and make sure it's not gouged up or damaged or worn in any way. In this case, we're good. This bike has really low miles on it, so didn't expect to find anything weird inside here. All right, so we can go ahead and get this centered on here. And you just want to make sure that this is sitting on this friction plate, that everything is square and nothing's hung up on the edge or anything like that. Obviously, if it is, it's not going to work. All right, so we've got that in place. And next is going to be the upgraded diaphragm spring that we got from Barnett as well. So This is going to go in just like the original. It's going to sit on top here, and then the retaining plate is going to go over it. So we'll get that all lined up. So just making sure that the holes in the studs are lined up in the middle of these tabs so you can get the bolts through. All right, and go ahead and the retaining plate on, and that'll help to get everything kind of lined up. And then we've got our bolts, and we will get those started. So you've got a couple of them in there. We'll hold everything in place. You go ahead and thread in the rest. Okay, so now just like we did on the way out, we're going to tighten these up a little bit at a time in a star pattern. And the torque spec for these from the Harley service manual is 70 to 100 inch-pounds. All the Barnett components use the same torque values, so once we get these snugged, we'll grab the torque wrench and we'll final torque them. All right, so we've got those all snugged down. Like I said, really important to do this in that star pattern to make sure that your spring is tightening down evenly. Otherwise, you're gonna twist and bend and warp, and again, the clutch isn't gonna work right, and you'll be back here doing this all over again. So as you can see here, we've got a nice even height of this spring all the way around, so we're looking good. So we'll grab the torque wrench and we'll final torque these. All right. All right, so we've got these tightened back down, so our clutch is installed now. The next step is going to be to go ahead and readjust. So this procedure is going to be essentially the same as with the stock clutch, so we'll go ahead and do that now. One thing to point out, the first step obviously in that adjustment procedure is to slacken your clutch cable all the way. In this case, ours is disconnected, so nothing for us to slacken up. We can just go right to here. Right. So, got that loosened up. We will take our Allen key here and we'll give this a couple of turns in just to make sure that the adjuster is centered on the push rod. And then the adjustment procedure is going to be turning it inwards until it makes contact. And then ask 100 people, you'll get 100 opinions on how far out you should turn it. some say a quarter turn, a half a turn, 3/4 of a turn. Really all depends on feel and how you like the release on the clutch to feel. So for this one, we're going to go a half a turn from the contact point. Okay, so that's going to be our spot right there. And then we'll go ahead and tighten down our lock nut, making sure not to move the adjuster as we do. Okay, so adjusted, we're good to go here. Obviously your next steps would be in the clutch process for the adjustment would be to go back and readjust the clutch cable to get the correct free play at the lever. Like I said, ours is disconnected, so we're going to skip that. From here, we're ready to go to reassemble the primary. I've got some other things I want to look through here. It's not a bad idea when your primary is off to take a look at the chain tensioner and everything else, the chain itself, just to make sure everything's in good shape. So we're going to do that before we button it back up, and probably don't need to show that on video, basically just the same way you took it off. And so that is installing the Barnett extra clutch plate upgrade for this bike. And our next video, hopefully we'll be back on the other side of the bike, getting this top end together, and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more of our videos. Thanks.